The entry that ended them was 11 words long. I know, because I memorized it the night we found the ledger. I was sitting in what had been the Vocari Transit Hub's lower maintenance bay. A place I had come to know the way a man knows a cell. Every scratch on every wall, every vibration through the deck plating when the gate cycled, and Administrator Sereth Vo slid the data slate across the floor toward me with his secondary hands. The way you might toss scraps to something that bites, he said. The entry covered all of us. He said it was a formality. The entry read, unclaimed biological assets, Terran origin, transit harvested, allocated to labor maintenance, Kari Interior Holdings. 11 words, 214,000 people. I had been a propulsion engineer on Habitat Callaway 7 when they took me. Outer Belt, Survey Rotation 41 crew. We were running a standard thruster diagnostic when the gate opened. Not a door, not a hatch. Something that had no business existing in the space between my engine room and everything that was not my engine room. And then we were somewhere else. The gate closed. Callaway 7's crew complement became 11 entries in a Vocari administrative log under the heading of Transit Intake. Sector 9, Unclaimed Biologicals, Pending Allocation. That was 6 years before the Warden Compact arrived. In those 6 years I learned enough of the Vocari language to read a maintenance schematic, and enough of their administrative structure to understand what we were to them, not prisoners, not slaves in any word they would have used, because that would have implied a previous freedom. They were obligated to acknowledge. We were unallocated biological material that happened to be ambulatory and trainable. The Dominion had been running harvesting on human outer belt habitats for 18 years before the compact came. The math was not complicated. 214,000 humans, taken in batches small enough to go unnoticed, filed under codes that did not translate to anything a human diplomatic inquiry would have flagged, routed through 17 different Vocari interior holdings as maintenance labor, agricultural processors, tunnel crews. Some died. The Dominion filed those separately, under asset depreciation. I had repaired Vocari gate stabilizers for 4 years by the time I understood enough of the accounting to calculate the full number. I did not tell the others immediately. There were 11 of us still from Callaway 7, and we had learned to be careful with numbers. The Warden Compact did not announce itself. That was the first thing I noticed, and it was the thing I think about most now when people ask me what it was like. They expect me to describe a declaration, a broadcast, summon of theater where Earth's voice came across every Vocari channel and made the Dominion understand what was about to happen. It was nothing like that. The gate that brought Callaway 7's crew to the transit hub was a fixed installation, a piece of architecture. The gate the Warden Compact used to enter Vocari space was something they had built specifically for this purpose, and it opened without a sound I could hear from the maintenance bay. What I heard was the pressure change, a deep resonant drop in the ambient hum of the hub, the way a room sounds different when too many large things enter it at once. I had spent 6 years with my hands in Vocari machinery. I knew what normal sounded like, pressed my ear to the hull plating. A habit I had developed. You learn to read a ship through its skin when you have no instruments. And through 4 centimeters of Vocari composite I felt the arrivals. Not one, not a squadron. Something that went on arriving for a long time. Seen 400 warships. I did not know the number then. I learned it afterward from the Compact's own after-action record, which I read in full 3 times, because I wanted to be certain I had understood the scale of the answer my government had sent. They did not begin with the Dominion's military installations. They began with the transit gate network. Every fixed gate in Vocari interior space, every installation that could move a human being from one place to another, without that human being's knowledge or consent. The Compact took them first, systematically, in order of strategic priority, working from the outer installations inward. No broadcast, no ultimatum. The Dominion's fleet moved to intercept, and the Compact engaged them the way you engage an obstacle, not an opponent worthy of negotiation. The Vocari had built their empire on the assumption that transit was theirs to control. The Compact's first act was to that transit was finished. I know the sequence from the record. In the maintenance bay, all I knew was that Administrator Sereth Vo stopped coming to the lower levels. And then the guards stopped coming. And then, the lighting in the hub shifted from the flat yellow-white the Vokari preferred to something closer to a color I recognized. And I understood someone had taken control of the environmental systems. A junior officer from the Compact found us in the bay 9 hours after the Compact entered the hub. She was young, maybe 23. She did not speak for a moment when she saw us. Then she was sorry it had taken 18 years for anyone to find the trail. I told her the number, 214,000. She wrote it in her field log and did not say anything for a while after that. They brought Sarath Vo to the maintenance bay 4 days later. Not to me specifically. They brought him to a processing station they had established in the lower transit corridor, and I happened to be one of the 11 from Callaway 7 who was well enough to attend. He was smaller than I remembered. Or perhaps the bay was simply a different thing when it was not his space. They sat him at a field table. A Compact advocate read him the administrative charges in Vokari and then in Standard. Every entry, every allocation code, every asset depreciation filing. It took most of an hour. When the advocate finished, she asked if Sarath Vo wished to respond. He said the Dominion had operated within its legal framework. He said the transit harvesting program was a matter of interior administration. He said that the concept of unclaimed biological assets was a recognized category under Vokari Compact law, and that nothing in the Dominions required notification of the asset's world of origin. The advocate thanked him for the clarification and closed her case file. I asked if I could say something. They let me. I told Sarath Vo his asset code. The 11-digit alphanumeric that had been assigned to me on intake at Callaway 7's capture, the code that appeared on every maintenance assignment I had completed in 6 years, the code that had been stamped on my file under transit harvested, Terran origin, labor allocation pending, unclaimed. I had memorized it because I had decided, sometime in the second year, that if I ever had the opportunity to say it to someone's face, it would mean I had survived. I said it slowly. I made sure he understood which asset I was referring to. He did not answer. The Compact processed 211,943 surviving humans from Vokari Interior Holdings over the following 4 months. The Vokari Dominion as an administrative entity ceased to exist in the same period. The Compact did not publish the full scope of what they had done to the Gate Network and the Interior Holdings. They published the number, 214,000 taken, 211,943 recovered, 2,057 asset depreciation filings accounted for, and they published the administrative record in full. Every code, every allocation, every entry. They sent it to every species with a diplomatic registry. The message did not require translation. I walked out of the transit hub on the day the Compact certified the site for civilian processing, and the light on the surface of that world was the wrong color. Amber, not blue. Nothing like home, but it was daylight, and it was falling on my face, and I stood in it for a long time before I moved. 6 years of maintenance bays. 6 years of hull plating under my palms and Vokari machinery, under my tools, and 11 words in a ledger I had not written. The Warden Compact had crossed the distance between what was owed and what was paid with 1,400 warships, and 4 months of systematic, methodical work, and they had done it without a speech, without a broadcast, without anything that required the Dominion to understand what was happening before it was already done. The debt was specific. The collection was total. There was nothing left to file. I have been asked since whether what the Compact did was justice or something else. I have thought about the question seriously, because I think it deserves a serious answer. Answer is that the distinction only matters if the alternative was available. The Vokari Dominion had 18 years, 214,000 opportunities, and 11 words in a ledger to choose differently. They did not choose differently. Compact collected exactly what the ledger said was owed. Every asset, every code, every entry, and closed the account. Call it what you want. The account is closed,